Your gas prices went up 27 cents per gallon in 7 days. Europe's natural gas prices jumped 40% in a single day. South Korea announced it could run out of liquefied natural gas in 9 days. Iran is shutting down its oil fields because with the strait effectively closed, there is nowhere to put the oil it pumps. And the head of commodity strategy at RBC Capital Markets told NPR that we are now facing what looks like the biggest energy crisis since the oil embargo in the 1970s. And every single day since Operation Epic Fury began on February 28th, millions of Americans have been asking the same completely reasonable question: why does any of this affect me? The United States produces more oil than any country in the history of the world. We pump over 13 million barrels a day. We became a net energy exporter. Donald Trump ran on energy dominance and drill baby drill. So why is the price at my local gas station going up because of a narrow strip of water between Iran and Oman that I have never seen, never visited, and that my country's oil never even passes through? The answer to that question is one of the most important and most misunderstood things in all of economics. Here is the complete explanation, clear, honest, and built for every American who deserves to know why a war 7,000 miles away is costing them money at the pump right now. Before we can understand the economics, every American needs to visualize exactly what the Strait of Hormuz actually is, because it is almost impossible to overstate how much global consequence is packed into such a tiny piece of geography. The strait sits between Iran to the north and Oman to the south, connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and ultimately to the open ocean. At its narrowest point, it is just 21 miles wide. For context, that is roughly the distance between New York City and Newark. 2 shipping lanes, each 2 miles wide, carrying the energy lifeblood of the entire global industrial economy through a channel that a moderately strong swimmer could theoretically cross. In 2024, oil flow through the strait averaged 20 million barrels per day, the equivalent of about 20% of global petroleum liquids consumption. That is not 20% of Middle Eastern oil. That is 20% of every barrel of oil consumed by every country on Earth every single day. Roughly 27% of the world's crude oil and petroleum products maritime trade goes through the strait. Additionally, 22% of global liquefied natural gas trade passes through it. And here is the geographic fact that makes it irreplaceable. Most volumes that transit the strait have no alternative means of exiting the region, although there are some pipeline alternatives that can avoid it. There is no detour. There is no backup highway. There is one road, and it runs through 21 miles of water that Iran sits directly alongside. Under international law, states may exercise sovereignty up to 12 nautical miles from their coastlines. At its narrowest stretch, the Strait of Hormuz and its designated shipping lanes fall entirely within the territorial waters of Iran and Oman. That legal reality is what gives Tehran its geographic leverage, and it is why military planners in Washington, Beijing, Tokyo, and Delhi have spent decades gaming out scenarios for what happens if Iran ever actually tries to close it. Here is the most important and most counterintuitive fact of the entire Hormuz story, and it is one that should change how every American thinks about energy security, modern warfare, and the limits of military power. Iran did not close the Strait of Hormuz with a naval blockade. It did not lay naval mines across the shipping lanes. It did not sink a fleet of supertankers. All Iran had to do was several drone strikes in the vicinity of the strait, and all of a sudden, insurers and shipping companies decided that it was unsafe to traverse that very narrow waterway. That is the complete story of how one of the most consequential economic events in modern history happened. Not a fleet action, not an underwater minefield. Cheap drones, the same Shahed series weapons that cost roughly $30,000 each, created enough fear among insurance underwriters sitting in offices in London and New York that they withdrew coverage. And when maritime insurance disappears, the ships stop moving. It does not matter how powerful your Navy is if the accountants decide the risk is uninsurable. The strait is not formally closed. Vessel tracking shows limited traffic continuing, primarily Iranian and Chinese flagged ships, but commercial operators, major oil companies, and insurers have effectively withdrawn from the corridor. Tanker traffic dropped first by approximately 70%, with over 150 ships anchoring outside the strait to avoid risks, and soon traffic went to about zero. Maersk and Lloyd, two of the largest shipping companies on Earth, suspended all transits. War risk insurance premiums had already reached a 6-year high before the first bomb fell. Kevin Book, co-founder of the research firm Clearview Energy Partners, described this as about as wrong as things could go for global oil markets at any single point of failure.
Here is the economic explanation every American deserves, because the connection between a closed strait and a higher price at a gas station in Ohio or Texas or California is not obvious, and the people who explain it badly do a disservice to every citizen trying to make sense of what is happening to their wallet. The United States does produce more oil than any country in history. That part is true, but oil is not a local product that gets priced locally. Oil is a single global commodity priced on a single global market. When you fill up your car in Columbus or Dallas or Sacramento, the gasoline in your tank was refined from crude oil that was bought and sold on that global market at a price set by global supply and demand, not by how much oil is sitting in Texas. The price of a barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude oil moves in near lockstep with the price of Brent crude oil, which moves in near lockstep with every other major benchmark. They are all part of one interconnected global pricing system. Here is what that means in practice. Iraq, a major oil producer, is having to shut down production in some of its largest oil fields because without being able to export it through the Strait of Hormuz, it has nowhere to put that oil. When Iraq shuts down production, total global oil supply falls. When global supply falls while global demand stays the same, the global price rises. When the global price rises, American refineries pay more for every barrel of crude they process, regardless of where that crude came from. When refineries pay more, they charge more for gasoline. When they charge more for gasoline, every American pays more at every pump in every state, even states sitting directly on top of vast domestic oil reserves. Even though the U.S. is no longer dependent on Middle Eastern oil and it can take weeks for pump prices to be affected, it is not immune to disruptions. That one sentence summarizes the entire economic reality. American energy independence, real and genuinely significant as it is, does not create American price independence, because the price is global, and the global price just went up 13% in 7 days. Here is the half of the Hormuz story that receives far less attention than oil prices, but that matters just as much for the American and global economy over the next several months. Roughly 22% of global liquefied natural gas trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz, primarily from Qatar, which is the world's third largest LNG exporter. Qatar halted LNG production entirely after Iranian drones struck its facilities at Ras Laffan Industrial City in the opening days of the conflict. Qatar supplies enormous volumes of natural gas to Europe, Asia, and South Asia. Europe was already paying elevated prices for natural gas after switching away from Russian supply following the Ukraine invasion. About 20% of global LNG exports that come from the Persian Gulf are at risk, primarily those originating from Qatar. South Korea said it could run out of LNG in 9 days. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung announced the creation of 100 trillion won stabilization fund to cope with soaring energy prices. Qatar and the United Arab Emirates account for 99% of Pakistan's LNG imports, 72% of Bangladesh's, and 53% of India's. These are not small economies on the periphery of the global system. They are major manufacturing and population centers whose economic stability directly affects global supply chains, global inflation, and the cost of goods that American consumers buy every single day.
When Bangladesh's factories cannot afford power, the clothing supply chain tightens. When India's industrial sector faces energy price shocks, the global manufacturing ecosystem absorbs those costs and passes them along. Here is the part of the story that is politically awkward but economically important for Americans to understand, because the Hormuz crisis does not hurt everyone equally. The majority of crude oil shipped through the Strait of Hormuz goes to Asia, with China, India, Japan, and South Korea accounting for nearly 70% of shipments. These countries are far more directly exposed to a sustained closure than the United States. About 60% of India's oil imports come from the Middle East. China, the world's largest crude oil importer, has roughly 40% of its oil imports passing through Hormuz. But here is the uncomfortable flip side. As oil and gas prices soar against the backdrop of the war in Iran, the United States and Western exporters could find a new opportunity to fill the gap in the market. American LNG exporters are already moving to fill the supply gap that Qatar's shutdown created. American oil companies are benefiting from prices elevated by the very crisis that American military action helped trigger. The geopolitical and the economic interests are tangled in ways that make simple moral accounting impossible. The alternative routes that exist, Saudi Arabia's East-West pipeline and the UAE's Fujairah pipeline, offer partial but deeply insufficient relief. About 2.6 million barrels per day of capacity from the Saudi and UAE pipelines could be available to bypass the Strait of Hormuz in the event of a supply disruption. Against a normal flow of 20 million barrels per day, that is a 13% offset at absolute maximum capacity. There are no meaningful alternatives to that flow. The strategic petroleum reserves held by IEA member countries, including the United States, exist precisely for moments like this. But reserves are a bridge, not a solution. They buy time. They do not replace the 20 million barrels per day that normally flow through 21 miles of contested water every single day. Here is the context that places the current crisis in its proper historical frame, because this has never actually happened before, and Americans deserve to understand exactly how unprecedented it is. Iran has often threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, but never actually attempted it before. Every American president since Jimmy Carter has had to manage the threat of a Hormuz closure. It is the single most recurring nightmare scenario in American energy security planning for nearly 50 years, and yet it never happened. Until now. The 1973 Arab oil embargo, the last event comparable in scale to what experts are warning this crisis could become, lasted 5 months and produced gasoline lines, rationing, and a recession that reshaped American domestic and foreign policy for a generation. It was triggered by an embargo affecting roughly 7% of global oil supply. Halima Croft, global head of commodity strategy at RBC Capital Markets, said we are now facing what looks like the biggest energy crisis since the oil embargo in the 1970s. The Hormuz closure is affecting flows representing 20% of global consumption, nearly 3 times the scale of the 1973 shock. The duration will determine everything. A week is painful. A month is a crisis. 3 months reshapes the global economy. Here is the answer to the question every American has been asking since they looked at the gas pump this week. You produce your own oil. Your oil never goes through the Strait of Hormuz. You are genuinely energy independent in a way that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. And none of that protects you from a closed strait, because oil has one global price, and that price just went up 13%, and American refineries pay that global price, and they pass it to you at the pump. That is the economic reality of living in an interconnected global economy where 20% of the world's oil flows through a gap 21 miles wide that Iran sits directly alongside. Iran did not need a naval blockade to bring traffic to a halt. All it had to do was several drone strikes in the vicinity of the strait, and all of a sudden, insurers and shipping companies decided it was unsafe. That is the most important lesson of the 2026 Hormuz crisis. The most consequential economic weapon deployed in this war so far was not a ballistic missile or a B-2 bomber. It was a $30,000 drone and the fear it put into the actuaries at Lloyd's of London. And until that fear is resolved, either by military victory, diplomatic settlement, or a sustained naval escort operation that convinces the insurance market the route is safe again, every American filling up their tank is paying a small share of that fear every single time.